NASA just received an image from the Blue Ghost lander that changes everything we thought we knew about the moon. This robotic lander, launched in January, has captured an unbelievably clear and close-up view of the lunar surface, one that defies explanation. But the real shock, a haunting, never-before-seen image, revealing something we were never meant to see. What did Blue Ghost uncover that made NASA rethink its entire lunar mission? Stay tuned, because this discovery was so shocking, it forced NASA to shut down all future moon operations. This wasn't just any snapshot. Taken in mid-February, the footage came from about 75 miles above the surface, giving a perspective not often seen. Blue Ghost has now circled the moon 3 full times, each pass bringing it closer to its final destination. Firefly Aerospace, the company behind the lander, says everything is on track for the big moment, landing on the moon's surface. If all goes according to plan, this historic event is set for early March. Before we dive into this, what Blue Ghost captured is far more unsettling than anyone could have predicted. And this is just the beginning of what will leave you speechless. The excitement isn't just about the view. Blue Ghost is packed with cutting-edge technology, including NASA-funded instruments meant to study the moon like never before. These include sensors designed to track the moon's environment and experimental navigation systems. The lander's trip hasn't been short, traveling nearly 239,000 miles before settling into lunar orbit. And now, it's been slowly maneuvering itself into an even tighter path, preparing for the final descent. One of the biggest moments came when Blue Ghost completed a major engine burn, shifting it into a lower orbit. This placed it close enough to get an extremely detailed look at the moon's surface, including an area that has long been out of reach for many previous missions. A particular moment stood out, a flyby of the moon's far side, the part that never faces Earth. This is the same region that has sparked countless theories over the years, and now Blue Ghost has given the world a new glimpse. For decades, people have speculated about what really exists on the hidden side of the moon. This latest footage has only fueled those discussions. The video shows an intricate landscape of deep craters and rough terrain, a stark reminder of the moon's violent past. But it's not just the craters catching attention. The clarity of these images has led some to question whether there's something NASA and Firefly Aerospace aren't saying. Are these just craters? Or do they hold something more? While plenty of space enthusiasts are amazed, not everyone is buying into the excitement. As soon as the footage was shared online, skeptics were quick to react. Some questioned if what they were seeing was even real, calling it CGI or a carefully crafted hoax. Others pointed out that the lighting and textures looked strangely artificial. NASA, of course, insists that everything is authentic, but in an age where deep fakes and digital effects can be hyper-realistic, some remain unconvinced. Then there's the landing site itself. Blue Ghost is set to touch down near a volcanic feature called Mont Latreille, located within a massive lunar basin. The name Sea of Crises alone makes people wonder what could be waiting in this strange region. The moon has been studied for decades, yet there's still so much unknown. Some researchers believe that lunar dust has unusual properties, including the ability to levitate under certain conditions. Blue Ghost is carrying instruments specifically designed to study this phenomenon, but will it find something unexpected? NASA's last human mission to the moon was over 5 decades ago, and since then, countless theories have emerged about what astronauts really saw. Some say they witnessed structures or strange formations that didn't seem natural. With Blue Ghost heading to a largely unexplored area, people are naturally asking, what if it finds something that changes everything? Could this mission uncover something that has been hidden from the public all these years? The lander isn't built to last forever. Once it touches down, it only has 2 weeks before the harsh lunar night shuts everything down. The moon's night brings temperatures far below freezing, cold enough to destroy the electronics aboard the lander. If Blue Ghost doesn't complete its mission in time, all of its research and images could be lost. But what if it captures something right before its systems fail? Could its last transmission reveal something no one is prepared for? The timing of this mission is interesting. With multiple nations and private companies racing to the moon, some wonder if Blue Ghost is scouting for more than just science. The moon is becoming a place of strategic interest, with countries eyeing it for resources and potential future bases. If something unusual is discovered, would NASA share it with the public, or would it be buried under classified reports? Blue Ghost's discoveries have made people even more curious about the moon, but this isn't the first time humans have tried to learn its biggest unknown. The moon has always been a giant question mark in the sky, pulling humans toward it with dreams of discovery. But let's be real. What started as curiosity quickly turned into a full-on space race, where two superpowers flexed their muscles, desperate to plant a flag first. The late 1950s kicked things off, and from there, things escalated fast. The Soviets wasted no time. In 1959, they launched Lunar 1, the first spacecraft to zoom past the moon. Not long after, Lunar 2 slammed right into the surface, proving that the moon wasn't just a glowing disk in the sky, but a real place. Then came Lunar 3, taking the first ever pictures of the moon's far side, a place no human had ever seen before. These blurry black and white images hinted at a world far rougher than expected, but that didn't stop anyone from pushing ahead. By the early 60s, the US finally got in the game. The Ranger missions were basically high-speed crash tests, snapping photos right up until impact. Ranger 7 in 1964 gave the clearest images yet, helping scientists map out possible landing zones. But pictures weren't enough. They needed to actually touch the surface without smashing into it. That's where the Surveyor program came in. Surveyor 1 in 1966 landed softly and confirmed the ground was solid enough to support a spacecraft. That was a major green light for what came next. Everything led up to the Apollo missions, which were nothing short of insane. In 1968, Apollo 8 became the first crewed spacecraft to orbit the moon, giving astronauts a front-row seat to the lunar landscape. But the real game-changer was Apollo 11 in 1969. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin stepped onto the surface, making history while Michael Collins waited in orbit. That one small step was a giant victory for the US, proving they had won the moon race. And let's not forget, it was a huge gamble. The world held its breath as they left, hoping they wouldn't get stranded. The Apollo program didn't stop there. Apollo 12 touched down near an old Surveyor spacecraft, letting astronauts retrieve parts to see what years of exposure had done. Apollo 13, though, was nearly a disaster. An oxygen tank exploded, forcing the crew to fight for survival while NASA scrambled to bring them home. Miraculously, they made it. Later missions explored different regions, but by 1972, Apollo 17 marked the last time humans walked on the moon. After that, interest faded and funding dried up. The US had proved its point, and the space race fizzled. Meanwhile, the Soviets kept sending robots. Lunar 9 landed softly in 1966, snapping images of the surface. Then, in 1970, Lunar 16 became the first robotic mission to bring back lunar samples. A year later, Lunar 17 delivered the Lunokhod 1 rover, a remote-controlled vehicle that wandered across the moon, beaming back information. While impressive, none of these missions put humans on the surface, leaving the US as the undeniable leader in lunar exploration. For years, the moon sat ignored, collecting space dust. Then, in the 1990s, interest came roaring back. In 1994, the US sent Clementine, which hinted at frozen water in craters that never see sunlight. By 1998, Lunar Prospector confirmed it. Water ice was there, a game-changer for future missions. If humans could use lunar resources, long-term moon bases might actually be possible. As the 2000s rolled in, more players joined the race. Europe sent Smart 1 in 2003, testing new propulsion methods. Japan followed in 2007 with Kaguya, providing high-definition images that revealed more about the moon's interior. China wasn't far behind, launching the Chang'e missions. In 2007, Chang'e 1 mapped the surface, and in 2013, Chang'e 3 delivered the U-2 rover. But the real shocker came in 2019, when Chang'e 4 became the first mission to land on the moon's far side. No one had ever pulled that off before. India also made waves. In 2008, Chandrayaan-1 confirmed water molecules on the moon, solidifying the idea that lunar resources could be tapped for future missions. Suddenly, the moon wasn't just a dead rock. It was a potential home base for deep space exploration. Then came private companies, determined to stake their claim. In 2024, Intuitive Machines made history with the IM-1 mission, landing a commercial lunar lander, Odysseus, on the moon. This wasn't just a science experiment, it was proof that businesses could play a role in space travel. The moon was no longer just for government agencies. NASA wasn't about to be left behind. The Artemis program set its sights on getting humans back on the moon. Artemis 1, an uncrewed test flight in 2022, proved that the new Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft could handle the trip. Artemis 2 is next, sending astronauts around the moon, and then Artemis 3 will finally put humans back on the surface, this time at the moon's south pole. And here's the kicker: they plan to stay. Instead of quick visits, the goal is long-term exploration. It's not just the US anymore. The Lunar Gateway, a planned space station orbiting the moon, has partners from NASA, the European Space Agency, Japan, and Canada. This station will serve as a hub for lunar missions and possibly one day a jumping-off point for Mars. The moon is officially back in the spotlight, and this time, it's not just about national pride, it's about the future of space exploration. For years, space missions have led to amazing discoveries, but now that private companies like Firefly Aerospace are in charge. Firefly Aerospace, a Texas-based private company, has been making big moves in the space race, but not without raising eyebrows. Their lunar lander, Blue Ghost, is part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program, which claims to be all about advancing moon exploration and setting the stage for a long-term human presence. But let's pause for a second. Why does a private company get to play such a crucial role in lunar operations? With government backing and taxpayer dollars involved, it's worth questioning who truly benefits from these missions. And let's not ignore the name Blue Ghost, supposedly inspired by a rare firefly. But doesn't it sound eerily fitting for something that operates in the shadows? On January 15th, 2025, SpaceX launched Blue Ghost Mission 1 aboard its Falcon 9 rocket from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The collaboration between SpaceX, Firefly Aerospace and NASA suggests an exciting leap in moon exploration, but also raises some unsettling questions. Private companies with little transparency are now handling critical space infrastructure. They call it innovation, but could this be about monopolizing the moon's resources? Blue Ghost was packed with scientific instruments and tech experiments, all designed to study the moon's environment. But let's be real, data isn't the only thing they're after. The lander spent 45 days cruising through space before reaching the moon. It performed several orbital maneuvers, fine-tuning its trajectory until February 13th, when a 4-minute engine burn locked it into an elliptical lunar orbit. From there, it adjusted to a circular path, inching closer to the surface while snapping high-resolution images, including some from the far side of the moon. These images are valuable, no doubt, but are we seeing everything they're capturing? With limited public access to raw data, it's fair to wonder what's being held back. Mare Crisium, the mission's landing site, was chosen for its smooth terrain and scientific value, or at least that's the official reason. This area is rich in lunar history, but also potentially valuable for future resource extraction. Blue Ghost carried 10 scientific instruments, including the Lunar Environment Heliospheric X-ray Imager and the Lunar Magnetotelluric Sounder. These tools help scientists study space weather and the moon's interior. But could they also be scouting for minerals and resources that would be worth trillions back on Earth? Another key experiment, LISTER, focused on measuring the moon's heat flow, essential for understanding its geological activity. But let's think bigger. Knowing how heat moves beneath the surface could also help pinpoint hidden reserves of ice, a critical resource for sustaining future lunar colonies. Meanwhile, the regolith adherence characterization experiment analyzed how lunar dust sticks to different materials, information that could be useful for designing future spacesuits and habitats. All of this sounds practical, but taken together, it paints a picture of something bigger, laying the groundwork for commercial mining operations. Blue Ghost's mission timeline was short. It was only built to last one full lunar day, which translates to 14 Earth days. During that time, it beamed back data, conducted experiments, and prepared for an ambitious task, capturing a total lunar eclipse on March 14th. When Earth blocked the sun's light from reaching the moon, temperatures plummeted, giving scientists a rare opportunity to see how the sudden cold affected lunar soil. While the scientific benefits are clear, this also serves as a test run for something more significant, understanding how to build structures that can withstand extreme lunar conditions. It's a necessary step if someone, whether a government or a private corporation, plans to set up long-term operations. Blue Ghost's mission is just the start. What happens next could change how we explore the moon and who gets to make the rules out there. Looking beyond this first mission, Firefly Aerospace already has bigger plans. Blue Ghost Mission 2, scheduled for 2026, will deploy the European Space Agency's Lunar Pathfinder satellite into orbit before landing on the moon's far side. This mission will also involve the Elytra Dark Transfer Vehicle, a system designed to move payloads around in lunar orbit. Moving objects around the moon sounds convenient for anyone looking to establish logistical dominance over lunar supply chains. Then in 2028, Blue Ghost Mission 3 is set to target the Gruithuisen domes, an unusual volcanic region on the moon's near side. This mission will include a rover to investigate these domes, officially for studying their composition, but it's worth wondering if there's more at stake, perhaps valuable minerals hiding beneath the surface. The rise of private industry in space exploration is often celebrated as a sign of progress, but what does it really mean? NASA is relying on companies like Firefly Aerospace to get the job done. Yet these missions also serve corporate interests. Blue Ghost isn't just about science, it's about control, influence, and ultimately, profit. Establishing a presence on the moon isn't just about human exploration, it's about economic expansion. And let's not forget that whoever controls the moon's resources could also control the future of deep space travel. Firefly Aerospace is not just launching rockets, they are planning for the long haul, making sure they control every step from takeoff to touchdown. Their main base in Cedar Park, Texas, is where all their missions are carefully planned and monitored. The lander they have designed is built to survive the harsh conditions of the moon, standing on 4 sturdy legs with a strong communication system, heating units to keep it from freezing, and solar panels that produce 650 watts of power. These features do more than just help it land safely. They point to a much bigger plan. Firefly Aerospace is not just thinking about short trips to the moon. They are laying the foundation for something far greater, possibly even permanent human settlements beyond Earth. But what is really happening behind the scenes? The moon is not just an empty, lifeless rock floating in space. It holds huge potential for future space missions and valuable resources waiting to be discovered. Governments have always seen the moon as a goal for exploration, but now private companies are stepping in, making their own rules and shaping the future of space. Firefly Aerospace's Blue Ghost lander is only the beginning, and its success will change how we understand the moon. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes that space is not just about science, it is about power, control, and who gets to decide what happens next. NASA, once the leader in all things space-related, is now working alongside private companies, blurring the lines between government and business. While this partnership allows for faster progress, it also raises important questions. Are these private companies working toward the greater good, or are they simply carving out their own slice of space for profit? As more missions are planned and new technology is developed, it is no longer just countries competing for dominance. It is now a race between powerful corporations, each wanting their share of space. And as they move forward, shaping the future of lunar exploration, one has to wonder, who is really in charge? What happens when private companies control access to space? The moon, once a place of dreams and scientific curiosity, is becoming a battlefield of ownership and influence. The technology that companies like Firefly Aerospace are developing today could be used for much more than research. They are testing systems that may one day allow for mining, long-term bases, or even the first lunar cities. But as they prepare for these possibilities, there is little public discussion about what that truly means for the rest of us. Who gets to decide how the moon is used? Who will own the resources found there? Is this shocking moon footage just a breathtaking view, or did the Blue Ghost lander capture something NASA isn't telling us? Could there be more hidden on the lunar surface than we ever imagined? Tell us what you think, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.